pretty much repeat, mate, and see where we end up.
Yep.
So what I'll do is I'm going to play through...
Your phone off?
Yeah, should be. I'm going to play... So this is how you'll hear it come through. Both recordings. So we'll go record. Welcome to the fuck me. But I want to have that fading bit.
Be the warrior. Welcome to the
So I can fix up all the echo and the voices too later. I just need to get the raw data in there. Alright. Talking points. So you're going to fire questions at me first, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me do a bit of a 30-second grab and then... Alright.
Good luck, bro.
Let's do it. Alright. Right. No, we're all recording. Fucking, that's the main thing, you know?
Sweet job.
We'll have a cut.
Yep. There's some
Just
international.
introduce that as the...
Yep. There's some international money in my second drawer.
We don't want to put that in the dirty can. What the fuck is that? Tire or something? Who knows? He didn't fucking saw his bag. What are we going to do with the swear jar money? Ah, fuck it, we'll worry about it later. Alright. Right. Just make sure you're here.
Welcome to the Koa Sports Podcast. Here are your hosts, Mcdermott and Tim Ballintine.
Welcome to the first ever Koa Sports Podcast, and I am here with my good mate Tim Ballintine, the founder of Koa Sports. And we are just starting our first ever podcast. So I think the most important thing for us today is to share a little bit about who we are and what we do. So if this is, and it will be, the first time you're listening to Koa Sports Podcast, I hope you enjoy what we've got coming up. And without further ado, I will introduce Mr. Tim Ballintine.
Thanks, bud. I've been losing a bit of sleep. Probably even a little bit nervous, actually. So this has been a big ambition of ours, I'd say, a real shared ambition to get something like this going. Not for self-interest at all. In fact, this episode, is a little bit, not so much self-indulgent, but we want people to have that connection with us in terms of where we come from, perhaps a little bit of a background, and if I'm being perfectly honest, getting it out of the way a little bit too. And so that'll always stand there as our first episode. So if people want to refer to it and find out who the hell they're listening to, then I think that'll be really helpful. So it'll be a good chance for our listeners, our massive audience, starting at zero. There's nothing like building something from dust, I always say. So we're building something from dust here, and we'll see where it goes. But you put two endurance athletes in a room together, and we're pretty good at getting shit done. Yeah,
so we've got Tim and I are both endurance athletes, obviously, and full-time coaches with the Koa Sports business. So in the room, we have the two of us, our beautiful banner, which you can't see if you're listening online, and a fan that's going to be cranking because, we can share this right now, we both live on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland in Australia. We're recording this in the middle of summer, and it's pretty hot. It's pretty hot.
I haven't forked out for the split system aircon. So
season 2.
If we hit 1,000 downloads, then maybe we'll fork out for the
a weather wall.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We're also going to run. We may drop a few house rules or just a bit of a guide. We might drop the odd swear word or two. So
I think I have
already.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I said shit. Yeah.
We do have in front of us a little swear jar. We'll decide what we're going to do with the money later. But the jar might turn into something a little bit bigger as we go, I think.
I think it's going to get choppers.
Yeah, so we do definitely watch what we say, but we're pretty real, both of us. So bear with us and enjoy the journey.
Probably, if you think about us sitting in a room, like obviously as coaches we have to be quite level-headed and, do get from time to time the impression that athletes or just people don't really know who we are, and they want to maybe have a look under the rock and see. And this will be professional, and we'll have guests, and we'll definitely, look to have mature discussions. But if you do 10 of these a year, you're bound to drop your guard from time to time. So, we're going to try and completely drop the curtain here, so to speak, and just allow you guys into our genuine thoughts and our vulnerabilities too. Yep. This is, going to be discussions about what we've learned as well, and without sounding too corny, but growth too. Yeah, growth. We're by no means, perfect. Far from it. So looking forward to it, mate.
Nice. Well, why don't we rip in, because we've spent a bit of time here coming up with questions that we think that you guys might want to hear from us. So, mainly just to share a bit of our own journey for, most of you guys don't know us like, close mates or anything like that. So we want it to be more of somewhere where you have a familiar voice, someone that you know a little bit about and you can relate to. So I'm going to send it over to you, mate, because I think you've got a few questions for me first. I
do. Well, let's start really simply. Where are you born and bred, mate?
Yeah, I'm a southwest Sydney boy. Grew up in near Liverpool in southwest Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. So that's probably, I'll throw that out there too.
Not Liverpool, the other one.
No, not the Liverpool kiss, but the other Liverpool. probably is rough, but anyway. Brought up in a family. I'm one of three boys. I sit in the middle. Very sporting family from the day far back as I can remember. My older brother was right into soccer or football, depending on where you're listening to us in the world. And my younger brother and I pretty much followed in his footsteps through the ranks of playing soccer in Australia. So it started at the age of 5, and off we went. And every year, without sounding like an idiot, we got a little bit better and a little bit better, and representing regional teams and state teams. And
be honest, you got pretty good. We
went all right. So my older brother actually was fortunate enough. He played football in the UK for 9 years as a professional athlete.
Wow.
And that was my dream as well. And played for some big Premier League teams.
Amazing.
Yeah, represented Australia as a young boy.
People know that.
No, so I unfortunately never made it to that level, and I always, and I can jump 3 steps ahead. Alcohol's always been a big thing in my life, but not in a good way either. And my soccer career started going downhill when I was 18 years of age, and I thought it was good to jump off a roof away from a security guard, snap my ankle in 3 pieces. Not great. Whilst staying at the Australian Institute of Sport as an athlete. Anyway, so that sort of put the soccer career on hold for me. But in saying that, that's how I found triathlon. So surgery, recovery, I was pretty much an athlete at that stage. So when the physio said, sit on the side of the pool and put a flipper on and kick for 30 minutes, that's what I did.
Yeah.
So, and then that led into swimming, which led into cycling because I couldn't run. I'd had surgery on my ankle. So, and then when I came back to playing soccer, I sort of missed the boat, which is fine. That's all good. It took me years to deal with that. But these other guys that I used to look at sitting in the stand eating hot dogs when I was playing were now representing my country. And I probably never dealt with that as a young guy. And
that's hard to deal with, though.
Absolutely. Irish Catholic father, mate. You don't cry. There's no, that was life.
What position did you play?
Right wing back. So
I don't know.
Okay, that's down the back.
So half back flank?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so like a rebound player?
Yeah, a defensive rebound player.
Where's all that speed from?
All endurance. That left me many years ago. So never a real talented soccer player in regards to, if you asked me to juggle a ball 3,000 times, my opinion was you teach monkeys to juggle, but they can't play football. So that was my out for that. So never overly talented, but I worked bloody hard. And I always...
That sounds like a defender speaking there. Because I reckon Ronaldo would go, I can juggle the ball 3,000 40,000 times.
Probably 20,000.
It's going alright.
Yeah, you can defend anything, right? so soccer career was amazing, and it really, I look back on it now. That's only 20 years ago, right? So I'm 37 now. So I look back on that and I think of what I learnt out of that. And team sports is such a huge part. It should be such a huge part of most kids' lives, I think, because of the things you learn out of how to deal with failure, how to always strive to be better. There's always someone that's better than you. And I think it really engages a lot of things that you use for the rest of your life. You know, how to negotiate with people you don't really like, how to work with people you don't really like. So, but you're always working towards a common goal. So now it's taken me, I probably learned a lot of that when I was 30, when I look back and I thought, I actually learned a lot of stuff out of that. And I still use a lot of those skills to this day in relation to working with people you don't like. You're never going to work with people, you know, I like you. Throw that out there. But you're always going to come across people and we'll get to your professional career as well, but you always work with people that you don't like or aren't as good as you. So or they're better than you. So how do you relate to those people and things like that? So post soccer, I went, I'm just going through your questions here. You don't have to say anything. So it was.
Well, just hold up. So you break your ankle, you do all your rehab.
Yeah.
Did you know when you were probably, I'd say, fairly inebriated when you jumped off the roof.
Oh yeah.
When did you have a moment where it was like,
yeah,
I need to shape up here, or was it a moment, or was it just a progressive sort of slide?
No, I remember the next day I actually got up and ran away from the security guard, right? So, and then the next day I could not walk, right? So my parents, luckily enough, were in Canberra. I had played a game the night before, so they were down watching that. So straight to the medical centre, X-ray, and I remember, 18 years of age, sitting in a doctor's office with my mum, and he's like, oh yeah, this ain't good. I just thought I'd done some ligaments,
Yep.
And he's like, oh, you've snapped the end of your tibia off and surgery in 3 days' time, and and I just started crying. I still remember.
Yep.
I knew that was not good.
That's tough for a footy player.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, like I had these big plans.
Swear up.
So, it's got me too. Got me. And it's, I didn't deal with it. I was young, like I didn't deal with it well. So it was, I did the rehab and got back playing, but I was just never the same player again.
Yeah.
I then got, so I was a contracted player at the time, not for sheep station.
If you think about
Got sacked.
Wow.
So, yeah.
But people, even these days with elite sport, once a football player in any sort of code breaks their leg, they lose that top end, that 2%.
Yeah.
And with it being so cutthroat, it's so difficult for them.
Yeah, and that's what it was. I came back and everyone was really supportive, but at the end of the day, the other guy was better than me.
Sure.
So, and then, I still remember walking, Frank Farina, for those who know soccer in Australia, was my coach at the time, and he walked down the corridor with me after training one day and literally said, mate, you're done. Like, we don't have a spot here for you anymore, so we're going to give you a release from your contract and you can sort out other areas. And that was it.
There's your hands up. Thanks, Frankie.
Yeah.
You're guilty. But man, you're the one that got drunk and jumped off the roof.
Totally. So there's got to be there's definitely an element of, you've got to take it on board. You are the exact result of the decisions that you make. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, and it took me a long time to work that out though.
So park that. So you moved through your 20s.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned you're 37 now. So, it wasn't exactly smooth through your 20s too, mate.
No.
It was a bit rough too.
Yeah. So and I haven't said this much, but I always strive to be like my brother. He was a professional footballer, older brother in the UK. Crushing his dreams and all that sort of stuff. But I never, this was by no means any pressure ever put on at home ever. It was all internal for me.
Yeah.
But I struggle with that. So I went through still playing sport. I started competing in triathlon in my mid-20s as a punter, and then sort of didn't really engage with, I was playing with mates, started playing soccer with mates, mainly for drinking, and
Futsal.
or something like that, and then not getting much out of that, and then I sort of flipped around career-wise for a while, never really, I just look back at it now, I never found myself, if that makes, as corny as that sounds, but I never knew who I was. Until
I think this is the dropping of the guard slightly right now.
Totally, yeah.
Saying, oh, if that doesn't sound, that's totally fine. You could totally say that.
Yeah, so
it's just between us.
Yeah, and 4 listeners. So that was a real, it's a hard thing to take, because it's, you're not born with skills to deal with stuff like this.
No doubt.
So in the end, I learned by getting to, I wouldn't say rock bottom, but I was depressed and unhappy, and then when you hit 25 and you're still drinking as much and eating shit food like you were when you were 20, the weight starts to pile on.
Where did you mentioned the word depressed? Without depression 12 years ago was a very, very different, let's say it had a very different stigmatism, particularly in males.
Oh yeah.
So you're dealing with it would be very different to people that are having to.
There was nothing available. I mean, it didn't. It was a hard enough to move on.
I'll put my hand up, I was probably one of the guys that was just like, for God's sakes,
pull your socks.
You got a headache, take it back.
That's exactly. So the way I dealt with it was through, I was the happy guy at the party. I was always, so outsider looking in, got good job, worked in sport most of my career, like sales jobs, travelling around the world and having fun doing that, going to really good events and all that. But outsider looking in, Greg's doing well, girlfriend, everything was going good. And deep down, when you put your head on the pillow at night, you're like, what am I doing? Like, what is going on here? So staring at the ceiling for 6 hours at night, falling asleep at 2 a.m.
Did you ever struggle getting out of bed?
Oh, a lot. Yeah. So the only thing that would keep you going to get out of bed was work. So I worked hard. I work hard on most things I do. If you give me a task and I'll follow it and it'll happen, right? So, and that's sort of, I look back on it now, and that comes from, and this is no disrespect to my parents whatsoever, but they come from a different generation. So it was work hard. My dad's Irish Catholic, grew up in a
that's my old man.
So AB, right? Same thing, right? It's like
totally.
And you party hard. Like there was always alcohol's been a part of my life since I was a kid. Not drinking it, but and again, I'll put this out there. My father's certainly not an alcoholic, and there was never any drama.
Different time, mate. Different time.
Yeah, so I dealt with my feelings with alcohol on Friday and Saturday nights.
Yeah,
that's how it worked.
They drive home from the drive-in, having had 20 stubbies. Yeah. Knocking over letterboxes. That's probably a little bit movie, but you do that now, you're in trouble.
Absolutely.
You're in a little bit of strife. So it's a different time.
Yeah, so 20s wise, bit of a blur, and it sort of hit me on my 30th birthday. I was 110 kilos, and
0.11 of a ton.
It was a big boy, right? And look, I'd organised an event down at Opera Bar in Sydney, and everyone came down, and so I was literally, and my younger brother was there, he'll laugh at this, I literally was put to bed at 10 p.m, no recollection of what was going on, and I woke up the next day, and I was like, fuck, that's not good, there's another one.
Jeez, it's going to be a big Christmas party.
So I woke up, wasn't good. It took me then, my sister-in-law, my eldest brother's wife, really pushed me to get help. And I went and I did that. So I went and sought out a psychologist, which I was like, what's she going to do for me? What are we going to do? Sit down and sing Kumbaya, But she actually gave me some really good skills to work with the way I felt, which was perfect. So, and to this day, I still use some of those things.
Okay.
So, and it never medicated. I said to her day one, I wasn't interested in any sort of medication or anything like that, because even now I had this idea that I wanted to, live a healthy lifestyle and, all that. We'll probably get into that later. But so went and did my 10 free sessions, which if you're listening to this and you're feeling depressed, anywhere, well, I'll say in Australia, anywhere, you walk into a doctor's office and you'll get 10 free biomedic. It doesn't matter what you earn, you'll get 10 free sessions with a psychologist, with a professional that might be able to help you.
Did not know that.
So anyone can get that. And I've even spoken to some of my athletes about this. Like, just go and sort it out.
Wow, okay.
So, so got to 30 odd and then got a Christmas present to get some PT sessions and begrudgingly went along. Real estate agent by this stage, working with my brother's business.
What a job.
Oh my God. Never again. Anyway, so went along, first session, never forget it, looked up, my mate ran the PT studio, looked up at him after 3 minutes and literally said to him, I'll be back in a minute, I've just got to sort something out. And he thought I was leaving, right? I just went to have a chuck. So he had me on the roller, right? So I came back and sort of never looked back. So, within 3 months, lost 30 kilos, met April along the way.
That's a big hole. I reckon knowing you and April very, very well, I think that's a moment in your life, meeting that chick.
Oh yeah, that was big.
I think that's a huge, and you guys just like two stars colliding in a way with very similar, without April saying her story, but a different pathway, but a similar meeting point.
Oh, absolutely.
If you could call it that. And then both, and she flogged you in the first. Did she?
Yeah. She dropped me.
She dropped you.
Something happened. It has happened again, but it won't happen again.
No, but I think it's a really.
But it's sort of like you look at this sort of stuff and it's like you sort of meet people where you're at in life.
True.
So you're always going to be sort of meeting, if you get deep heavy into drugs, guess who you're going to meet? You're going to meet drug addicts and drug dealers.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a triathlon, you're going to meet triathletes. So
True.
if you need to lose weight and you're at a weight loss gym, guess what? You're going to need another fatty.
That's
so,
oh, yep. Straight up.
So anyway, so it's and that sort of moment really changed me, and I started. I always used to go, especially working in sales and real estate. You'd always go to conferences. I've seen some amazing speakers, and you walk out of it and you're like, I'm going to change this, and you do it for a week, and then you go back to eating donuts or whatever you're into. You know. So I physically remember making the decision that that's it, I'm not drinking. I took 9 months off the drink altogether, which was probably the best thing I've ever done for my own health. Started following a really, I wouldn't even call it a diet, but a lifestyle that worked for me.
Yes.
And that did honestly started for 3 months. I weighed food. Like if I was eating a steak, that's right, steak, I would weigh it. And I'd trim the fat off it and I'd weigh it.
Okay.
But it worked for a short period of time, right? Yep. So, and I'm always big on, now if someone asks me that, I would say, no, just, you need to eat proper food and do it. But that worked for me for a very short period of time. And then I started obviously getting into triathlon. So that, and then once you sort of get your head in and you finish your first race, I'm the sort of personality, I'm always looking up the road. What's coming next? What else can I do?
You are very much that way.
So and that's sort of led me to, and within a 30-second window here, it's like sprint triathlon, Olympic triathlon, half Ironman, a few of them, couple of Ironmans, an Ultraman, and then right around Australia. Yep. So it's, and this sort of,
we're going to come back to a few of those.
Yeah, and now I'm taking another leap back, not in relation to how hard the process is for training for an event, but just in relation to the time of the event. So
yeah, I think that's a story to itself, which I'm definitely going to ask you about in a second. So you paused on steak. You don't eat steak anymore.
No.
And that's okay.
My last ever steak, right? This, I don't know if I've told you this. My last ever steak.
Better have been a good one.
Well, it was with you.
No way.
The night after Melbourne Ironman 2014.
That was
It was a beauty. It was a beauty of a night.
Crown Casino.
Yeah, we ended up at the casino. I think I ended up in front actually too. My ear got pulled. April was there. She pulled my ear and said, "We're going home." And I think you were in the same boat.
Oh yeah, I got in trouble.
So that was the last steak. April and I had a steak that night, and it's the last.
Was it something I said?
It was pre-planned. We were like, we're going to have a steak after Melbourne Ironman. We'd started listening to I drove to Melbourne, right? And because I wanted to take my bike, first Ironman, we'll go on there for a week. I lived in Sydney. It's a 900 kilometre, probably the most boring drive anyone in the world's ever done.
We don't have high-speed trains in Australia yet.
No, or we never will. So we'd listen to Rich Roll, like 8 episodes back to back. You know, for anyone if you want to listen to another great podcast just like ours, dial into Rich Roll. He's got some really good content. So listen to a lot of his stuff, and April and I were like teetering on the edge of, let's try this vegetarian thing for a while and see how it goes. Only, honestly, for performance. I wanted to recover better. And I still think to this day that it's not so much about not eating animal products, it's more that you eat more green stuff.
Okay.
In relation to recovery from exercise.
And you've gone to the full end of the scale.
Yeah, so we were veggie for a couple of years and still, having cheese and dairy.
Yep.
And eggs. Definitely eat a lot of eggs.
You hear it, you do, the more I listen to, it seems like a progression. Very few people successfully cut the cord. That bodybuilder to go to the international protein world, Nimai Delgado, who's the vegan bodybuilder, but his was progressive too. Yeah, and
I still remember we went to it was the Australian Triathlon Expo, right, in Sydney, and credit to them, they had it out there, and they had a guy named James Aspey there, who is a vegan guy who's he didn't like. Long story, didn't speak for a year because he's all about, he was the voiceless for the voiceless animals.
Okay.
And I spoke to him after, and I said, mate, great presentation, it was really cool, and April and I have been sort of vegans for a couple of years, and he goes, I'll set you a challenge. He goes, why don't you go vegan for 30 days? Sure, let's do that. So that was probably 2.5, 3 years ago, I think. So we don't now, we don't have any dairy products, we don't have any eggs.
But we won't be jamming this down your throat. And to give balance, I love a T-bone. So don't worry. So this is not a shout it from the rooftops.
No way. And April and I made a decision like that because we often look at what happens in that world, in inverted commas, in the vegan plant world.
Yep.
And people heap shit on people who don't follow them. And it's like, hang on, you were that person a few years ago. So I'm more about leading by example. If people ask me a question about it, I'm more than happy to answer. Yep. But a good example of the way we operate is you and Alicia and a few other people came to our place on New Year's Eve, and we had a barbecue, and I cooked the barbecue. Yep. And you guys all had meat, and we chucked all our stuff after it, and it's just like, guys, just get on with it. You don't have to, I'm not getting a tattoo next week across my forehead that says plants. So
yeah, it is amazing. I liken it to, I was telling my much better half that I still remember as a kid going to Blockbuster Video, and you're hiring a tape, a video tape, not old, but we used to put the tapes in. For kids at home, they're these big square rectangular things. Anyway, these things called DVDs came out, and they were just this tiny little shelf. But sure enough, the shelves got bigger and then the tapes got pushed out. Yeah. But then these things called Blu-rays came out, and then they pushed the DVDs out. But now if you go to a supermarket, there's a whole aisle of vegan, gluten, alternative lifestyle foods, if you want to call it, whatever you want to label it or whatever. Yeah. It's huge. There's vegan restaurants now. Alicia and I just on the weekend went to a plant-based vegan restaurant. Yeah. Just because, guess what? I love the food as well. I love it too. So it's everywhere now. It is absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, and I think the days are finished of what's that?
Totally gone.
Yeah, if you said to me even 5 years ago, what's a vegan? I would have went, woman living in the bush, hairy armpits, and hasn't showered for 3 years, and has 400 animal rescue dogs with her. Right? But now it's like just
the person next door.
Yeah, exactly. The girl next door, whatever you want. So it has it definitely has become a lot easier for us, even we've found in the last few years, just to find options. So
it would be.
There's nowhere you, especially on the coast. I mean, everyone's pretty, progressive up here, I'd say.
Yep.
When I did my bike ride around Australia, you go into the Nullarbor Roadhouse and you ask for bonsai, and the bloke will laugh you out the door, right? So, but that's still, that'll happen. But it's a pretty easy lifestyle for us to lead, and one of the easiest things for us is April and I both live the same lifestyle and we don't have kids.
Sure.
So it makes things a whole lot easier. I can only imagine how hard it would be on the flip side if we were both a bit different. So, yeah.
So now, you're a real estate agent, you're working in a gym, and you're now a full-time coach. So how does someone end up being a full-time coach?
Just hassle the Koa Sports founder for that. So I've been coaching for a couple of years, but sort of, and I think a lot of coaches go through this as well, Tim. It's like this: should I put my foot in the water? Can I take the risk to go full time? So luckily I've been lucky enough to come on board full time with Tim. It's honestly the best thing I've ever done career wise for myself. Because it's like you're all in. It's like I've even found it with close friends who I would have used to have coached for free.
Yep.
Because it was a part-time gig or I do a hobby, right?
Hobby job.
Whereas now I've had a couple of them say to me, "I'm glad you're full time now I can pay you." And it's like, that's awesome. That's exactly, and it's not, we're not charging sheep stations to coach people. That's not what it's about. But it's just been really nice to wake up in the morning. I train most mornings or every morning of the week, and you come home at 8 o'clock and you work. My job is working as a triathlon coach.
Yep.
So there's no, Uber driving, which I've done for a period of time, working in gyms, working sales jobs or whatever I need to do to sort of pay the bills. Now triathlon coaching does that. So.
Yep. That's pretty exciting. I mean,
I shouldn't say triathlon coaching either. It's endurance sports coaching, and I apologise to all our cyclists out there and runners.
Yeah.
So, because sometimes, and I have admitted this to a couple of them, sometimes Tim and I have been known to be carried away in the world of triathlon. Yeah. So, but cycling is getting, and I can say this, even Tim in front of me, cycling is getting bigger and bigger for Koa Sports, and so is endurance and trail running.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's definitely growing.
No doubt. If I think about, just to digress for a second, but single sport athletes, I really try as a coach to push not so much a multi-sport approach, but certainly another sport as part of what they're trying to prepare for. So if they're trying to become a good marathon runner, get on the bike.
Yeah.
If you're trying to become a good cyclist, let's jump in the pool.
In the pool, active recovery.
All those sorts of things. So, and it does break it up a little bit, but probably for a whole other episode, to be frank.
Yeah.
So, this is a little bit cliche.
Yeah.
But, you're going to know what your strengths are as a coach. So for people listening out there that are perhaps thinking about getting a coach or have a coach and maybe lifting their eyes a little bit, what are your strengths? What are your strengths as a coach?
Yeah, I think definitely the biggest strength I have is using my background in the corporate world as a coach. So how to communicate. Communication is number one for me. I think the number one thing that Tim and I both hear from prospective athletes is that I don't hear from my coach enough. I think that can be a really big one. So I'm really big on that. Yeah. And additionally to that, in relation to strength in regards to athletes, I'm pretty well spread now with, let's say, beginner, intermediate and advanced, right, for another cliche term. However, I will hand on heart say that my strengths lie where I've competed.
Okay.
So that being weight loss journey is really strong for me.
Yep.
And then the other area of strength now, and what I'm seeing start to come through in my own coaching in the clients that are coming on board, is people that are looking to do things outside the box a bit. endurance cycling events.
So you
longer triathlon, or the biggest one for me is moving from that Olympic sort of half Ironman distance to Ironman distance in triathlon.
Yeah, it is a progressive sport. I mean, just to touch on, you've done three Ironmans.
Yeah.
One you organised yourself for a charity. Youth Off the Streets. You've done Ultraman Australia. You rode your pushy around Australia in 78 days.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's spot on. Yeah.
78 days. You know, a whole bunch of triathlons in 70.3s, just to put that out there. So, are you an age group winner? No. Are you going to be? Yeah. But it's a process. It's part of the journey. So, absolutely, of course, you don't necessarily always have to be the coach that you are an athlete, so to speak. But of course, people are going to gravitate that way.
Of course,
they like the story. They want to be able to relate. Guess what? We have to be relatable.
Yeah, funny that.
Yeah. So,
and I think that you definitely need to. I can share this here. I've had a couple of professional athletes who I've been speaking with now for a little bit of time.
Yep.
And hand on heart, am I ready to coach a professional athlete? I think I am.
Okay.
Right? I think I am. However, sometimes I think this might actually sound a bit controversial. Sometimes athletes looking at us as coaches are comparing how we are as a coach to our athletic performance. So I flip it around a bit. Wayne Bennett, who's an Australian rugby league coach, was never the best rugby league coach in the world. Sir Alex Ferguson was never the best footballer in the world, but he's bloody the best. He's the best coach the world's ever seen. So I think there's a little bit of that to look into as well.
Good athletes don't make good coaches.
No.
We know that. There's no guarantee. I could list off a whole ream of athletes that have stepped up to coaching that just flop on their face.
Yeah.
So, and it goes both ways too, of course.
Totally.
I reckon, I would say for sure, you're ready because you care, you're passionate, you've got all the skills, you understand the science. So actually right in there, it's in there, mate. But then it's the whole, I suppose, the athlete taking the leap of faith and putting their faith in you as a coach. And that's a big call for a pro.
Absolutely.
Because
100%.
they're paying some bills.
Yeah.
I don't know many pros that will pay a mortgage, in endurance world of prize money. There'd be a handful, but certainly they're putting food on the table with it. So it's a big leap for them.
Yeah.
It's a really big leap. And I'll say this, there are some unbelievable coaches out there.
100%. We know quite a few of them.
You're early in your story.
And I get that, and that's totally fine by me because I like meeting people, as we spoke about before, meet people where they're at.
Yeah, sure.
So, and that's where it's at, and we go on a journey together.
Yep.
And as wanky as that might sound, it is a journey. Like, you've been working with some athletes now for 3-4 years that you've seen progress from a sprint triathlon and are now going to roll up for their first Ironman, or I've got examples already of athletes that, could not ride a bike 15 kilometres to save themselves and they're out now smashing out 100k events.
Yep.
And it's really cool and really rewarding as a coach to just be part of that. You don't need to put my name up in lights and say, oh, my coach is awesome. I don't need that. I get the best feeling out of coaching when I see that Training Peaks file pop up especially on an event day, and it's like green lights, PBs, and I'm like, that's awesome. That's the feeling we're chasing as coaches, I think, or the feeling I'm chasing as a coach anyway.
Well, I hope people feel like they know you a little more.
I
think they will. Even I learned a few things having known you now for about 5 or 6 years, so I've definitely learned a few things. The steak thing surprised me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it did actually. But anyway, really interesting. Mate.
So let's shift focus, mate, and I'm going to move on to you. Why are you wiping your brow for?
I'm nervous.
Get worried. So I'm going to start off with where you started. So give us a bit of your background. Born and bred.
Yeah.
What's happening with the family and all that sort of stuff?
Born and bred in Melbourne. I'm an only child, so it's immediately. I think that changes the game. I would say that when people who know me learn that I'm an only child, are surprised. I would say I'm a pretty grounded person. I've got my parents to thank for that. Unbelievable upbringing. Put it straight out there, I went to a big private school in Melbourne. Never really wanted for anything. Very lucky, genuinely very lucky. But I was always taught that, you had to work for things. And like I said, I've definitely got my parents to thank for that in my early years. Always sporty. So I was the captain of sport at Wesley College.
Sports captain.
So if you want to call it the head jock of a big private school, so that gives you some context about. But in my last 2 years of school, I was constantly broken, so much so that genuinely, and it stuck. And my schoolmates, a few that still hang around, call me Chalky. And did my knee 3 times, broke my wrist 4 times.
Wow.
A bit of bad luck in there, but also just not the body type or shape to be in contact sport.
Yeah.
And I was not a in and under football player. I was a flaky halfback flanker at best that liked to get a loose ball and a kick from now and then.
And if old mate was running at you, you'd handball it ahead and hope that he didn't smash up.
But I was really competitive. So I was very frustrated by it because, I was probably 20 kilos lighter than most of the other boys on the park. I just get smashed.
Yeah.
And that's how I got injured all the time. Probably because I was going in half-assed too. Yeah. Where you're not so much hard at it. But that was me. That was my body shape and body type. Swum forever. I've swum my whole life. Yeah. Swum state squad. So that's helped clearly.
Oh my god. So you can bloody swim, right? So
can swim.
There was a rumour out of Malaysia last year that you actually backstroke for part of the swim league. But I think without making a joke of it, I think the swimming background in endurance sport and obviously into triathlon really has an effect for you. Like you pick it up really quick again if you have some
It's
time.
a head start.
And look, Tim spends a hell of a lot of time in the pool, so there's no substitute for hard work, but it does help that you've had that background as a kid.
No, yeah, it changes. Well, that's, again, probably another podcast about the importance of swimming. But yeah, and just, there was a little mini, how a year at school went, there was always this 6-week cross-country season where most people would just take off. I do it. I love running too. Yeah. So swimming and running were my thing. Pretty handy now, obviously. Yeah. Cycling I've discovered very, very late and clearly my weakest link. But so love sport. Went to uni in Melbourne. Lived at home. Uni student living at home and started doing. What did I start? I started banking and finance.
Oh my god.
Banking and finance. It was horrific. It was horrific because I hated maths. I was hopeless at maths. I did, I could get in trouble for using this term, but the very low maths.
Maths in the pub, whatever it was called,
I was.
Maths in practice.
I struggled. I only just passed that at VC.
And you went banking and finance after not being great at maths.
Well, have you seen the Royal Commission? I was going to start. So anyway, so did that, quickly learned that wasn't for me, and swapped to management marketing, and then finished that degree. Part of all that story was in year 10 at school we did work experience, and I love boats. I love the water, again swimming, and I grew up around boats, big lake in Victoria, water skiing, wakeboarding, all that sort of stuff. Absolutely loved it. And I wanted to do work experience at a boat marina. Right. So you imagine the jobs they give a 15-year-old at a boat marina. So
clean the motor out.
Well, basically scrub the seagull poo off the dock, essentially, or help this guy fill up his boat, things like that. So I just did that. But what that did was immediately it got me talking to different people. You meet so many different people, and I was working a lot and saving a lot of coin, which was great. So, and then knocked on the door of a boat sales office and just walked in there knowing there was a boat show coming up and saying, I'll do it for free, mate, but can I stand on these 40, 50 foot boats and just do crowd control? Sure, mate. No problems at all. So that opened my door probably to the sales thing. So by the time I was 18, even when I was 19, I got flown up to Queensland for the Sanctuary Cove Boat Show as a sales rep from Melbourne. I was 19 years old, and I'll never forget.
Selling how many $1 million worth of yacht? What sort of bracket are we looking at?
Anywhere from 300 to 3 mil.
As a 19-year-old, talking to
high net worth individuals. So I think, funnily enough, they probably Would I sell it? Of course I wouldn't. I wouldn't know how to do a contract, right? So I had my mentors. But the point I'm trying to say is I was surrounded by pretty good people and learnt some pretty good crafty trades.
Sure.
You know, that whole sales industry is a beast unto its own, but it's definitely taught me a lot. So went through that, did uni, and got offered a job as a brand manager at the Riviera Group, which is Australia's largest boat manufacturer. So yeah, that was a really, really good job to get straight out of uni, but that was all in relationships.
Totally.
It was all in, so it's not what you know, who you know.
Yeah.
I knew the guy who was, basically hiring.
Yeah. Know you, like you, trust you, there's your job.
Yeah, we know you, mate, so come on up. So I moved to the Gold Coast.
Right.
Alicia and I were together at that stage.
So how old are you then? 23, 20?
I'm going to say 22.
Okay, so you packed up Melbourne off to the Goldie.
Literally stuff in the car.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, drove up with the old man, stopped in Coonabarabran, and had a few reds that night. And so anyway, set up life on the Gold Coast, and that's a big moment. I think moving out of Melbourne to the Gold Coast has got a big reason for, I would say, sitting here now actually and discovering endurance sport. So
I'm going to stop you for 1 minute because I reckon we've skipped through a big part of your life. So for those that don't know, Tim holds a black belt in Taekwondo. I don't even know what Taekwondo is. I know it's martial arts.
It is a martial
art. But there's about 27,000 of them. So fill us in. How did that all happen?
Well, at first it's one of those things where you don't really have a choice when you're very young, so you just go along to it. But it's good you bring that up. It's not because of nothing like that, but man, oh man, did it teach you discipline. I can't touch my toes hardly now, but just growing up, just that whole respect and discipline and the use of, I wouldn't say violence, but how to use
in the right way.
In the right way.
To gain respect when you need it.
I would say martial arts teaches you how to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
Genuinely. So look, could I do a flying high kick now? I would probably rip my hamstring off the bone. So don't ask me to break a piece of wood.
We're running a video here, so maybe you can try.
I definitely would pull a string. But I suppose that's worth mentioning. I often gloss over that. I think you just move on.
I think
I'm not much of a rear view mirror guy, so this 30-minute chat is enough in itself.
I think it's sort of you need to get some context into how you were shaped. So the first thing, without doing martial arts myself, but I had mates growing up that did it. So the first thing you'll learn is respect. Second thing I think you'll learn in any martial arts, is you've always got your eyes up the road, right? Because there's always another belt to get to. Johnny's a bit better than you, but he's in this belt, and it's
true.
And it teaches you, and team sports is very similar as well. It teaches you how to fail, I think.
I failed a couple of dance. I couldn't quite break the wood.
Yeah, sure. We won't go into this today, but it's one of my things at the moment that I'm reading a bit about as well. Is why does every kid in the class get a trophy now? Yeah. So there's a lot. We won't go into it today, but it's a really important part as to why. And I know you really well, and if I turn around and look at your desk, I guarantee you'll have your structure of the day. That's discipline, right? You are training-wise, if anyone who follows Tim on Strava, you'll see it's 4:30 a.m. or before every day. You don't have to get up that early, but you do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said about the discipline and structure that you bring into your entire life, not just running business, but even in sport with your family and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
That's all right. I think it's important for people to get an understanding of where we're both from, but it's a big part. So another thing that really intrigues me is the learning that happens, and I touched on it earlier, is what happens when you're working with people who are more experienced with you or that know more than you. So you brushed over it pretty well, but working as a 19-year-old, talking to, let's put it out there, it might sound a bit how you're going, but usually 50-plus-year-old men, white men, right, that have got dough and they're ready to dump on a boat.
Yeah, so first lesson, never judge a book by its cover. Yeah. Never judge a book by its cover. The guy in thongs in footy shorts with a flannel shirt, chances are he owns a massive transport company.
Yeah.
So always engage and just talk to people and understand, often it's the person wearing the white loafers and the white suit who is actually just wasting your time. I'm just going to talk in pure boat sales words.
Sure. We don't get many triathletes showing up in white loafers.
Yeah, exactly. But all I suppose that would be is never judge a book by its cover and try and understand really, what they're after. And the last thing would be listen.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah. 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Shut the fuck up and listen to what they have to say. That is huge. And as a coach, listen.
God. Yeah.
Shut up and just listen sometimes. So they're 2 big takeaways.
Yeah,
so look, growing up through my 20s, so stayed in the marine industry, travelled heaps through Asia, and got a very, very in-depth understanding of the culture in China, Hong Kong, trade, Singapore, all the supplier partners through that area of the world, and realised that that's part of, and by that stage I was just starting to dabble in say long distance stuff as well. So starting to understand the challenges of trying to balance it all, and realising that there really is no balance in endurance. And I'll talk till I'm blue in the face that term balance annoys me sometimes, because stop trying to chase it, just live your life, and your balance is your life. So wherever that sits, it ebbs and flows. So let's move over to that then. How then does a bloke selling $1 million yachts transition into, leave the coaching aside for a minute, but how does that person transition into an endurance athlete? Living on the Gold Coast, we live in a suburb called Runaway Bay, which is in the northern part. It's right at the top end of the marathon course. And for the first 4 years of living there, I would have my cup of coffee and watch these people run this marathon. And this is going to sound elite, but I would see the 6-hour marathon runners come past, and I'll be like, if that dude can do it, I can do a marathon. But I would tell myself that for a couple of years before I actually had the balls to go and do it. So signed up and prepared for it. And to this day, it's still probably the hardest thing that I've done on that day. I ran a 3:54. I had the iPod strapped to my arm, the dorky singlet, horrible hat. Just it was
calf
great.
Socks. Calf socks.
No.
Save them for Ironman.
I saved them for Ironman actually. And I was totally hooked. And I should mention my wife studied sports science. So that was a big thing because I had a lot of knee trouble, as I said, at school. But I loved running, and I just couldn't really do it anymore, mate. So after that marathon, I was totally barbecued. My knee was very, very sore.
Right.
And so I'm going to say, I probably got this wrong. Let's let me say 24, and my knee was shit out. But it's just because I don't have a meniscus cartilage in my left knee. But there's ways to build around that. So the wife suggested I go get a bike. And I could swim already.
She still regrets it.
Yeah, so that's really how I fell into triathlon.
Right.
And I fell in pretty hard, I would say, and trained up for it. Didn't really know anything. Turned up for my first triathlon in a pair of Speedos when everyone had wetsuits on. I think I've told this story on another podcast before, but we'll do it again. And started to swim the 1500 metre swim. And I thought I was lost on course because there was no one around me. And
you were last.
Quite the opposite.
I you were in front. Sorry.
I came out of the water and there were people on the beach and they were kind of clapping and I'm like, oh yeah, sweet. I looked around and there was a bit of a gap there and I'm like, that's hilarious. And I think I seen those. Anyway, so I jumped on the bike and then within about 5 Ks I think I was last. Right. I could hardly ride a bike.
Yeah.
And got through that and then ran and that was it for me. I was like, this sport is unreal. So next thing sign up for a 7.3 because that's and then sign up for Melbourne Ironman. And then it's sort of gone on from there. Really.
So let's touch on that for a minute because you sort of have gone on from there. So we physically actually met at your first and my first half Ironman, first ever. Right?
Yeah,
at a dinner table. And I remember saying to April, I'm like, oh, we'll go to this bloody carb loading thing. You usually meet someone pretty cool, whatever.
Isn't that an amazing moment?
Yeah, and there was this, I'll share the story because it's pretty funny. So there's this guy shows up, I forget his name, let's call him Russell, right? Because he looked like a Russell.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Right, so Russell shows up and he's got a novel with him and he sits down on the table with us. So at the time, April and I are like, oh, this Tim and Alicia, they're pretty cool, but their mate's a bit weird, right? So we might run into them again later. And you guys thought the same. They're like, who's this weirdo? Like, Anyway, so then we didn't really stay in contact until Ironman in 2014. So let's touch on that first, because that was my first Ironman as well. But however, you come out on debut at Ironman and go 8:52. Is that right? Is
51.
Sorry, mate. I'm shortchanged here. So 8:51, first ever Ironman. Might not ever see that time again, but hey, it's in the bank.
It's there, mate.
And isn't it funny that when you don't know, you don't know?
Yeah.
So run us through so since then. So 8:51, take your slot to Kona.
Yep.
Head over to Kona in 2014. Yep. And the World 7.3 Championship, might as well just put them all into 1 year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, first of all, I think a really good story is fill us in from first Ironman through to finishing Kona 5 to 6 months later.
Yeah. You think you know it all when you go that fast, sub 9. But when I look back on the day, it was a perfect day to go fast.
Yeah.
And it was a point-to-point marathon whereby we had a fairly strong tailwind.
Yeah.
So you look back on it now, and look, it's still tough running 3 hours off the bike. But yeah, so anyway, that was done, and certainly the goal was to qualify for Kona, even it being my first one. And I'll say a guy my age group who's now professional, Levi Maxwell, he dusted me by 11 minutes as well. So there was still quite a few people in front. But yeah, that was an amazing day. But yeah, so I took the slot. So went back to the Gold Coast and prepared, juggling it all, so to speak. No kids at this point, and went across to Mcdermott in Canada for the 70.3 Worlds, and that was an incredible race. I'm definitely going back there one day and doing a full.
Yeah. Incredible
race. But I was really disgruntled on the bike course with the packs of bike. I've never seen anything like it.
Right.
And I know it's gotten worse. Let's park that for a whole, because I think it's disgraceful where it's got to now. So in any case, it was a great race, but it was actually a pretty crappy experience, because pretty much it sort of dictated where you finished. Great, I did a 2:11 bike split, but it was literally just a group ride concertinaing up the highway. It was just boring, to be frank. So, but I want to go back. So anyway, went to Kona, but we decided that we'd stick around in between for 5 weeks in the US. This is a big thing for Alicia and I to do.
Totally.
This is a big thing. So a lot of expenses and all sorts of stuff. So we went across to California, and I intended to train at altitude and do all that. Arrived in LA, where we had a couple of days there, and I was training at the back, and was on my bike, and I'd forgotten to tighten up my tri-bar, and just completely ate it. I went straight over the top and completely ate it. This is 3 weeks out from Kona, so bad time to eat it. I'd say even a week out would have been better, because the work would have been done. But I was literally coming into essentially the most critical,
the biggest week,
I'd say the biggest 10 days of the prep. So I missed that, and that's life. I got completely cut up by the road, and I had hit all sorts of stuff, and I had a little issue with my foot.
A broken foot.
Yeah, small fracture in one of my metatarsals. So that was a real issue. So anyway, I managed to just essentially rest, I'm going to say, between then and the start line. It hurt to kick in the swim, so really my leg was just hanging back there. Went and saw a doctor and got a couple of magic street legal, of course, pills to sort of get me through the day. It still turned out pretty good. I think adrenaline took hold for most part of the day, and finished up about 9 hours 40 for the first Kona. It was about 26, then 25, 29, so still solid. because the base was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was pretty shattered. I was definitely going to be a lot faster than that on the day, but hey man, that's sport.
That's life, right?
That's life, mate.
And so then you, there's a couple of other results in there, but you end up getting back to Kona in 2017. And April and I were lucky enough that we went over on holiday to watch it. It was like, it changed the way I was thinking at the time in relation to what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And as you always refer to, you get the Kona boner when you get over there, and it's an amazing event to watch, and you don't get a concept of the heat of that place until you're actually standing on the island, watching people run out of T2 and it's 33 degrees and 90% humidity, and you've got a marathon to do. So the standout, for me, watching you, the standout for the day was your run split. It was phenomenal. But so post, I'll let you actually elaborate on that a little bit. How was Kona 2017 for you? I'm telling you what I thought of it.
Yeah, look, it was an incredible experience. The way I qualified was really difficult in Taiwan. Coach at the time, Craig Percival, we decided to try and qualify 12 months out. So that meant Taiwan, but it did mean going from Melbourne's winter to Taiwan's summer, and it was 44 degrees that day. And you'll learn that I do probably put a little bit of mayonnaise on my stories from time to time, but there's no may on that. That was 44 fair income. It was unbelievable. That's the hardest. So since marathon, that's still to this day. That if you coin a phrase from Goggins, that's put one of the biggest calluses on my mind ever, because there's no way I'll ever be hotter than that. Really captured that, qualified there, and with the intention to go and win my age group at 27 in Kona was certainly the goal, and did everything, absolutely everything in my power to try and make that so. No stone unturned. I even went to Thailand to Tanipura and trained for 2 weeks to get heat acclimated. Went to Ballintine, raced after, went really well there. Form was good. Came into the race, and I would say I actually had a really good race. That was where I was at. It's just still not quite good enough. And that put me 15th in the world in 30-34. So that's for me that's still a great achievement, but it's still not where I want to be. It's still it's a work in progress, isn't it? But I really struggled on the bike that day. I still remember it vividly going up Harvey. I just didn't have the power that was required that day, and that eats me a lot. It still eats me, even to this day, but that's okay. And came off the bike in 76, then ran my way through to 15th. I think I ran a very measured race, but I was pretty angry. Because by that point, I think when you know when you're not going to win. But I wanted to try and run to the top 10, and I did I was totally spent at the end of it. So 9:24, and that's And then since then, I've very much realised that I'm not going back to Kona until I get my bike right. And the best way to learn that is, I believe, to develop skills is in the 70.3 stage. It's really hard to improve specific areas in an Ironman build because of that haze of fatigue, in my opinion. So I'm bumping around in halves at the moment, and
hang on, you're not just bopping around. You went up to Malaysia in November 2018 and popped out a 14-minute course record and beat some young German bloke by about 12 minutes to win overall, to break the tape. First time.
That was good. So
he actually beat the photographer to the finish line.
Yeah, it was fun. So I think it's an Australian thing.
I know you don't like talking about it, but I think it's important to be able to, you run a very successful business. You're married. You've got child and
one on the way.
So it's not like you're not a professional athlete. You're juggling all aspects of your life, and it comes back to the discipline and the consistency that you put into your training. And that was the total reflection on that day in November of the preparation that you put into that performance. So people can sit back and say, oh, he's just a great athlete, or whatever. It's like, nah, I remember you getting off the bike at my place and we did I rode next year. You did a 10k run off the bike. you had your tongue hanging out sideways, dragging on the ground for the last 3 kilometres, but you got it done.
Yeah.
And it's and that's sort of shows just the level that anyone can get to. I don't care who you are, anyone can dig that deep. But you need to have the discipline and the structure around you, and the goal needs to be your goal.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm very comfortable hurting myself.
Yeah.
I think suffering is when other people are doing it to you. But I think I'm extremely comfortable hurting myself, and that takes time. So I'm not afraid, because at the end of the day, I can hurt myself to a point when no one's watching and I just stop. So what?
Yeah.
Like I don't know why. Anyway, I think that's a huge milestone.
Okay, so this is going to be a lead into what this whole season of the podcast is going to be about, right? I think that's a really good segue.
Yeah, it is.
There's
enough about me.
Seems to be, enough about Tim. We've heard enough. And we have. Look, if you're still listening, that's fantastic. We're going to just dive into a little bit about where we want to take this concept of the podcast. I would dare say, this is going to be the last time you're going to hear too much about us, right?
Thank God.
We might reflect back on the odd story here and there, or experiences that we've had, but it won't be like, when I was in 1975 and we've got a radio voice. So the whole concept behind the podcast. Do you want to go through this, or do you want me to sort of elaborate on it first? Okay. So the first season of the podcast is going to be around this ideology of the say/do gap, the say-do gap, right? So, and there's people say a lot of things out there on social media, and I said that I would share my little bit on this as well. So, I've been, over the last couple of years, post riding my bike around Australia, I've said a lot of things and I haven't done a lot of things. So that's definitely changed. But I think there's a lot of areas in people's lives where it's like, I'm going to do my first 200k bike ride this year, for example. And then December 31st rolls around, it's like, I did a 140, that'll do, right? So I think we really want to dive into what I'm going to call them overperformers or outliers in our world have done, and it's not just sport related. We've got like people that are listed down here like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, these sort of guys that are narrowing, and I think life should constantly be about narrowing that gap, as opposed to where sometimes it gets drifted out, and I think a lot of the time that is because of the things that we tell ourselves in our own heads. It's not, granted, there is definitely times in your life where things take priority over your goals.
They sure do.
I.e. family, and the second one, banks.
Yep.
So anyway, I'll let you elaborate a little bit more on that.
I reckon it's, in essence, it's that difference between having an idea and then executing it. Yeah. And then executing it. So I think it's very easy for you to just, if people have excuses in between, which is totally fine. But sometimes they're not excuses; they're real world things.
Absolutely.
And there are some people out there that just very straight and narrow. You just got to go out there and you get it done. But I guarantee you that that's a facade, and there's still some things that lie in between the say-do gap for them too. Without getting out the cane, but recently listening to Goggins on a podcast, and he would be out there as one of the guys that has apparently the smallest say-do gap. Well, I remember hearing on that podcast he was doing the Hurt 100. He couldn't get it done because I think he was busy on the book tour. So things do, even the greatest things bob up, and that's not things happen.
But and on that note, credit to him for not trying to execute it underdone. So clearly the training wasn't there. The guy's been travelling around the world, flogging his books, and good luck to him. I've listened to nearly the whole audio book now. It's unbelievable if you want to have a dial into that.
Can't hurt me.
Yeah, can't hurt me. But sometimes as well we need to stick our hand up, and I think this is where we'll lead it into as well. There's a lot of, so yes, coaching is about the coach having a program for the athlete, but I think there's more around the coaching space, and I think a bigger part of the role we play as coaches is to help facilitate people through the rocky road of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So things like, I've got to go on, I'm on a work trip. Sure, like I had an athlete a couple of weeks ago, let's go to Vegas for a week for work, right? I was like, I'm going to train every day. Okay, no worries. Red lights, right? Not one session, right? Yep. And he's like, man, I'm so sorry, like, I've been out drinking. I'm like, man, you're in Vegas. Like, the trip popped up out of nowhere.
Yep.
You got an opportunity to go. Well, he didn't have a choice, he went. But you sort of...
It makes the doing hard, though.
Totally.
It makes the doing hard, mate. Like, and that's, I think if all we did was pop out a program, we wouldn't have a business. I think programming is a tiny, tiny part.
Such a small part.
Of what we do, and being able to cut through all those, and understanding and getting people to actually break down, and different cultures perhaps not letting you in as much. Certainly Aussies are quite inviting in terms of opening up, but certainly, Asian culture is very, very hard. Subcontinent India, very, very hard to break into that true understanding of home life. And of course, there's that tyranny of distance where, of course, you're probably not as deeply connected as someone sitting across the table from you, but there's a skill in that. And perhaps we can offer some insight about how we try and break down those barriers. But, it can be physical limiters. You might jump off a roof and break your ankle. It can be mental health, it can be budget.
Yeah,
it can be budget, family life, budget. These are not excuses, these are real things. It can be genetics.
Yeah.
Hello, it can be genetics,
yeah.
It can be determination, but things like drive, determination, mindset, passion. These are things I think that you can really, really craft that mindset side, and that rise at the moment of that mental skills side and the mental coaching.
Yeah.
If you look at the pointy end of the stick, at any world championship, you can just throw a net over maybe the top 10, and there's only, there's a very, very small physical difference between those top 10 females, or very small. There's a couple of standouts at the moment in the world, which is fine. But, separating second through 8th or whatever, but between the years, there's a chasm.
Yeah.
In my opinion, there's a chasm.
Totally.
You only have to watch a post-race video of a guy that had big expectations, and I watched that thinking, physically, there's some things that Lionel would want to change, obviously, and I've got no idea what they would be. But I think between the years, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, it's
I'm fascinated by it. Perhaps there's a bit of fascination on my own part here. We're going to have some guests on offer, so it's not just us talking all the time.
Yeah.
But this stage of gap, that's what this first season is about. There's a bit of self-help about it. We hope that you guys can take some really important points away from it. But in the opposite of the scale, perhaps politicians sit at the biggest end of the scale in terms of saying.
Oh my god!
So
I've been watching.
Context,
no, absolutely, and definitely we will relate to some sporting areas more than others. I'd say just because of our backgrounds.
Yeah.
But great time of year in the southern area of the world to be watching a lot of sport, much to April's disgust. So we've got the Australian Opens going on at the moment in Melbourne, in Australia. The cricket season's in full swing, and prior to Christmas I was watching a bit of golf. So 3 sports that are totally, for me, at the pointing end related to mental performance.
Yep.
So one thing I love to watch in those sports, I watch a lot of cricket. So the great cricketer will miss a ball, reset mentally, play the next ball. Mm-hmm. The guy just a level down, he's angry, he's ready to take the bowler for 6, and gets out the next ball.
But if you think about it, the greatest of cricketers, they take sandpaper out. What's in that?
Oh my god!
What about that for a discussion in terms of what brings you when you're the greatest going around, and it leads you to doing something like that?
So there's another whole discussion in the pressure that comes from being at the elite level.
Yep.
So and I think even as age group athletes in any endurance sport, often that pressure comes from within. There's no so you're a cyclist going out to win a big road race in your area. Your partner and your family are totally supportive of what you're doing. You've improved so much in the last 12 months. Yet you as the athlete are the one putting the pressure on yourself to perform over and above where you've trained.
Mm-hmm.
Like your coach isn't putting the pressure on you because they've coached you to perform at XYZ level on the day. So that then throws in this whole other mix of what level does that pressure get to before someone cracks and cheats, right? So, and I'm sure there's going to be some of the stuff we'll talk about is that stuff definitely an endurance sport?
Yeah.
So, pretty exciting. I'm pumped. I think it's going to be awesome. We're going
to learn heaps, mate. But I would say that, so just from your expectations as listeners, we're totally committed. This is not a podcast that's just going to drop off the face of the earth that you subscribe to. And yeah, when we do this, we do it well, and we'll have some excellent content. So subscribe away.
Yeah, and the other thing I will do as well is I'm the brains of the pod on the back end anyway. So we'll definitely have an email address available for. We want to engage you guys as listeners. So we will have sections where we can field questions from our audience and we can have them as discussion points.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any feedback's welcome, good, bad, ugly, whatever it may be. We're adults, we can handle it. We might actually listen to some of it and change what we do. But yeah, definitely get that through to us, because I see that as definitely, when I listen to podcasts, to be able to engage with the host is a really big advantage when it comes to, I'm going to listen to the next episode.
Yep.
So there'll definitely be a lot of that for you guys as well.
And this has been video right now.
Yes, it sure
so it's
is.
going to be put up on our YouTube channel, Koa Sports, as well. So you can check it out if you're more of a video sort of guy, gal, instead of a podcaster. So absolutely. And
then we'll get all business for about 23 seconds. If you do want to know more about Koa Sports, head over to koasports.com.au and you'll be able to get whatever information you want.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I think that's us, mate. I think that's probably enough for today. We've been cracking on here for, let me have a look, an hour and 14 minutes. So if you're out on your long bike or your long ride, or your long run for the week or whatever it may be, I hope you've enjoyed it. Or sitting in some traffic in one of the capital cities around the world, give us some feedback, let us know. But we will wrap it up.
Absolutely.
Say goodbye, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Did you get recorded?
That was good, man.